Hey, it's Jeff Zito, and thanks for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Streaming on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're everywhere. So please subscribe. We'd love a 5-star rating, and please leave a review. You can follow on Instagram, celebrity_jobber_podcast. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber. And for past guests and episodes, you can check out celebrityjobber.com. So if it wasn't for being a star, what would Shaun Cassidy do? Kind of different circumstances with Shaun Cassidy. His father is Jack Cassidy, very famous actor, married to a very famous actress, Shirley Jones. Shaun's mom, Mrs. Partridge. His brother, David Cassidy, was Keith Partridge. So a very famous family, kind of born into showbiz, if you will. So, he had a little bit of a different career path, but where has Shaun Cassidy been? Last I remember, he was on the Hardy Boys, and I haven't heard too much about him. What's he been doing? And do you think Shaun Cassidy had any, regular jobs growing up outside of being a teen idol? Well, we're going to find out. Shaun Cassidy from the Hardy Boys is my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Hey, Shaun, how are you?
I'm great, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How's Mom doing, by the way?
Mom's great. She's 91. She lives 5 minutes away from us. We live in Santa Barbara, and we moved her up here after the pandemic because I didn't get to see much of her then. And she's in great health. She looks younger than I do, and she's awesome.
That's awesome. Great to hear that, man. What a trip. I mean, I got to tell you haven't been on the road in a little bit. I just saw a clip of you performing at the Grand Ole Opry a few months ago. But man, oh man, how long has it been since you've been out on the road, and how does it feel?
Well, I took a little break, about 40 years. It's weird and it's fantastic. But I didn't know I'd be taking a break. My last concert tour back in the day ended at the Houston Astrodome. 55,000 people. I said goodnight. Thought, well, see you soon. But I ended up segueing into writing and producing television, which has been my main job for all these years. And I just found that I missed the connection with people. I missed, I'd locked myself in a room writing stories, which has been great, but I wanted to get out again. And so in 2020, I kind of dipped my toe in the water, and I had impeccable timing because the pandemic was starting, so you couldn't really tour at all. So this is really the first, it's the biggest tour I've ever done in my life. I never got to do a tour of 60 cities over 6 months back in the day because I was doing the Hardy Boys and I was making records at night, and I just couldn't commit to that much time. But I'm doing it now, and it's wonderful.
That's
really
great.
Fun.
That's cool. It looks like you're having a good time. Take me all the way back, Shaun, if you could, because you've had to have a very different life than a lot of other celebrities, who tell you about their big break. And I mean, your mom and dad were in show business, but can you remember when and obviously your older brother, I'm sure there was a little sibling rivalry maybe with him when you were younger, but can you tell me what your first big break was as a kid, becoming a performer, becoming a teen idol?
Well, certainly getting the Hardy Boys. I mean, I have a weird career for sure. The trajectory of my career is pretty unique in that I had this huge success as an early 18, 19, 20-year-old. And then at 21, I stopped. I just stopped. I basically stayed home for the 80s. I stayed home. I got married crazy young, 21. I had 3 kids with them. I was 25. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I knew I didn't want to keep being a performer. Not that I didn't love it. I loved singing and I loved being on a stage, but I didn't like the life.
Right.
I didn't like being chased by paparazzi. And I was more private, and I'm more of an introvert, honestly. And I fell in love with writing. I fell in love with the process of writing. Even on the Hardy Boys, I spent more time in the writer's room than on the set. So when I found out I could write, I thought, oh, this gives me a creative outlet, but it gives me a better life.
Right.
And I've been really fortunate I was able to do it. As I said, I missed the audience. But I had the models of David and my mom and my father, who all dealt with it in very different ways, good, bad, everything in between. And I got to go to school on them, you know?
And you were mentioning, Shaun, that you took a break in the 80s. You stayed at home. You went into a different you went a different path. You started writing, doing more behind the scenes stuff. Was that your choice because you were an introvert, or was it everybody has a shelf life? I mean, it just happens. Did things dry up for you? And was there any kind of a rocky road after it was all over? 55,000 seats sold in the Houston Astrodome, or did you transition kind of into what you're doing behind the scenes?
I don't think the road was rocky, but it was certainly uncertain, and I didn't know what I was going to do when I said goodnight at the Astrodome. I didn't know it would be my last concert for 40 years. I figured I'll go home for a year or maybe go do another television show or whatever. I did a lot of work in the theater. I did plays, but I didn't know I'd stop acting.
Right.
But I found that I loved writing. I loved the life that writing afforded me. And when I sold my first television show, it was a show called American Gothic. Sam Raimi was my producing partner, and it became a real, cultural phenomenon. We got rave reviews, and it was very dark. The show came on in 95, I think. Sarah Paulson's first job. She played a young girl in the show. And suddenly the world was looking at me very differently because, I'd had kind of boy next door persona, and I'd written the darkest show in the universe.
Right.
And they're like, now we don't know what box to put him in, which is good. Because no artist wants to be in any box, really. You want to be able to do a wide variety of things. So once I found out I could write, it was like, oh, set me free. I'm going to run with this. And I did. And I just turned in my latest pilot to NBC yesterday. I'm still doing it.
That's great.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. Celebrity Jobber.
So when you were younger, was it acting or was it on stage performing as a singer, or did you not know? Did it just kind of happen?
I was in bands in high school, and I ended up playing some clubs on Sunset. And because I came from a famous family, people were sort of looking at me a little closer maybe, and people were taking my pictures, and my picture ended up in teen magazines. But that was really because of David and my mom and dad to a lesser extent. But then I ended up on the Hardy Boys, and I'd signed a record deal in high school, which was crazy. I signed with Holland. I was making records for Holland and then Australia and then Germany, and the idea was if you get a hit record somewhere in Europe, maybe a disc jockey in America would be, give it more than a 10-second look, get you airplay here. But then it all became moot because I got on the Hardy Boys, and suddenly Warner Brothers, it was my record company, put the album out. It became the biggest selling solo debut in history until Whitney Houston came along. She later took the crown. But so that was all insane. And I didn't really know if it's really what I wanted to do. I just kind of did it because that's what everybody did in my family.
Right. Wow. It's pretty incredible when you just it just happens for you. And then you sit back years later, you reflect on it, and it's gotta be a trip. And don't take this the wrong way, Shaun, but have you ever had a regular job? Have you ever, delivered pizzas or, worked, had a newspaper? You did. What was it?
Well, I don't know if this is a regular job, but I was a magician. I did children's birthday parties all over L.A. from 13 to 16. In fact, I played Jennifer Aniston's 4th birthday.
Really?
I did the magic show at her party. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Was that your first job? Was that your first paying gig ever?
I think I wrapped Christmas presents at a department store. That was a job. I did that a few years. But yeah, weirdly, I think writing and producing TV is a regular job. It's an artist's job, but it's a job.
No doubt.
It's not, it's a worker job. And that has been my main job. As I said, the performing thing was a kind of freak of nature early on, and now I'm doing it again, but I'm doing it, storytelling is a big part of my show, so it feels authentic to the job I've had. And I can still sing. In fact, in all humility, I think I sing better because I haven't sung for 40 years. I didn't blow my voice out.
And you can go to ShaunCassidy.com. By the way, that's ShaunCassidy.com. You can see a list of tour dates. And these aren't like little tour dates, like weekend. You got a full schedule all the way up until March. And by the way, just a quick FYI, in Florida, in Orlando, the Plaza, December 11th, in Clearwater, the Capitol Theater, one of my favorite venues. That's December 12th. Ponte Vedra. Ooh, you play golf? Sawgrass is right there. That's a great spot up in Jacksonville, December 13th. I gotta hook up there, Shaun, if you're a golfer. That's a great course. You're going to definitely want to play that while you're there. But huge schedule, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I never did it before. I mean, I did concerts, obviously, but they were sporadic because I was doing them around the Hardy Boys and around recording, making records. The only thing I'm doing now besides touring is writing TV, and I've been doing that in the back of an SUV or doing it in my hotel room before sound check. So it's all fun. You take 40 years off. You don't know if anybody's going to care or want to be there. And I honestly didn't know if I'd like it, but I love it. I'm having the time of my life.
Celebrity Jobber. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
So before the very first show, were you having some anxiety over like, man, it's been a long time since I've been out here. Does anybody remember? Does anybody care? Those thoughts went through your mind?
Oh, all of it, of course. Yeah, and will I enjoy it? Will I, be comfortable? Will it feel, the thing I was always anxious about, because I've been offered, like, come play Vegas over the years. Like, every 5 years, someone would call and say, you should do a tour. You can come back. And it's like, I don't really want to come back. I just want to go forward. I want to do new things. And the thing for me with this was, storytelling. Right. I couldn't do that back in the day. That is my job now. It feels authentic to what I do now. So yes, there's a lot of nostalgia in the show. I sing songs that were big hits 40 years ago, and a lot of the audience know them, but the stories are what make it feel relevant to me now. And they seem to be a big part of the positive takeaway for the audience. That's what I've heard anyway.
Shaun, you talked about, what you're doing now, which is mainly behind the scenes. You're writing TV shows, very successful as you stepped away from the public eye 40 years ago, back on tour. But I also hear you've got like a passion project. You're making wine. It's called My First Crush. How did you get into the wine business?
Well, our family lives in the wine country of Santa Barbara. And when the pandemic started, a very good friend of ours who's a brilliant winemaker called me and said, hey, I've got 500 cases of exquisite Pinot Noir that was supposed to go to all these high-end restaurants, and the restaurants have closed. No place for the wine to go. Do you know anybody that might want it? You can sell it. And I had been involved and still involved with a great organization called No Kid Hungry that feeds kids all over the world. And I thought, well, maybe we can do this, help the winemaker, help the grape growers in our valley, and help these kids. Many of whom were getting their only meal at school, and now the schools are closed during the pandemic. So I called No Kid Hungry and said, I'm going to put out this wine. We're going to give you money from it. Are you in? And they said, great. I called my winemaker friend. I said, I've just trademarked My First Crush. Sounds like a good name for a wine. Why don't we put it on the label? I'll sell it over my social media. And it kind of took off. And then we started myfirstcrush.com. You can order the wine all over the country. And the wine is exquisite. It's beautiful wine of all varietals. And it's a labor of love. It's not really profitable, but it's really fun.
Now,
you join our wine club. Go to myfirstcrush.com, and we'll all have a glass of wine together.
That's myfirstcrush.com, and the bottles of wine they're very reasonably priced, everywhere from it looks like most of them are between $20 and $30. I know I'm not the first guy to ask you this, but I'm thinking about who was your first crush.
Celebrity Jobber. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
Was there a certain girl that was in the back of your mind when you named this wine from way back when? Because I'm telling you, growing up as Shaun Cassidy, you must have had some great teenage years for other guys that were in high school just dying to be you. Tell me, who was your first crush way back when?
Well, my first crush was a little girl sat in front of me in second grade who just dazzled me and totally ignored me. Later, the actress who played Catwoman on the old Batman TV series, Julie Newmar. Oh, yeah. Baby.
Oh, you ain't
She
kidding.
was, and so I know that feeling. And, people come up to me and say, hey, you were my first record or my first concert or you were my first crush or whatever. And I'll say, I get it. I know that feeling. I had it too. I still do. And it's, the crush may go, but the feeling's timeless. So it's nice.
It's just a really cool story to hear that you made it out. When you hear about people, young actors that were in the public eye, it's not a good story. It doesn't have a happy ending. For you seem different. You didn't like the party. You didn't like the lifestyle. It wasn't for you. You were introverted. So you stepped back, created your own path behind the scenes. You found what you really love to do. Now, 40 years later, maybe you're a little different. You're a little less anxious. You're a little more, able to talk to people, tell your story, and now back on the road. And I'm sure a lot of people are grateful for that. Shaun Cassidy.com. That's SHAUN Cassidy.com for a list of all his tour dates, not to mention his wine, My First Crush, which is myfirstcrush.com. Real pleasure speaking with you, and good luck on everything. And there's a lot of people in my family and a lot of people listening right now that they're getting a little perspired right now. Let's say that.
Well, now you've made me perspire, Jeff. Thank you.
His dad, actor Jack Cassidy, his mother, Shirley Jones, his brother, David Cassidy, freaking Keith Partridge. It just kind of happened for Shaun. He was in a showbiz family. So he's got a record deal while he's in high school. He did say, though, that his big break, quote unquote, happened to be the Hardy Boys, which was absolutely huge in the late 70s. But he said things just kind of ended in the early 80s. He did a sold-out 55,000 person concert at the Houston Astrodome, said goodnight, and took a 40-year break from being in the public eye. Now, he has been a very successful TV writer and producer. So he kind of stepped away behind the scenes. He said performing and being in the public eye never made him comfortable. He was always a little reserved and somewhat of an introvert. He did not like the lifestyle either, which probably kept him out of trouble, unlike a lot of other child stars or teen idols. Being from that crazy showbiz family, he did have a couple of regular jobs, which he mentions he thinks writing and producing TV is kind of a regular job, which I can see. He said when he was a teenager, he wrapped Christmas presents at a department store, and he was a magician, like when he was a teenager. He said he performed at Jennifer Aniston's 4th birthday party. I thought that was pretty cool. And now back out on the road and also involved in the wine business, which you can check out online at myfirstcrush.com. ShaunCassidy.com for a list of all of his tour dates and when he'll be near you. What a cool guy, right? Kind of funny. After all of these years, I always kind of wondered what happened to Shaun Cassidy. It's like the Hardy Boys was a huge, huge thing. I didn't know anything about him being behind that TV show American Gothic, which came out in the mid-90s. That was a pretty huge show. Well, thanks again for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast, streaming on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating, and please leave a review. If you want to go back and check out past guests and episodes, you can do so online at celebrityjobber.com. Who knows what would have happened to some of these celebrities if not for their big break? Shaun Cassidy, a little different, but where the hell was he? Well, now we know. And he's back. I'd say there's some pretty excited moms out there maybe listening right now, knowing that Shaun Cassidy is back out there on the road. Until next week with another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. We'll see you then. I'm Jeff Zito.